Good afternoon, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. We'd like to thank the Honorable Councilman David Oh for putting this program together, the first International Women's Day held here at City Hall. So let me tell you about the Councilman. I did a quick deep dive, and I know that I'm echoing just a little teeny bit. If you could turn the tone down. The Councilman has been in this building, in an office, elected for about a decade. The first Asian American, Army veteran, attorney, and a PK, as we say amongst people of color, a preacher's kid. He's a married father of 4 who is celebrating his birthday today and honoring women. I was told he did not want us to sing, so we're going to call up the honorable host of this event.
Thank you very much. Well, listen, thank you for joining us. This is a wonderful day. It's celebrated around the world, but has not really been a big deal here in the United States for some reason. And I know because, you know, every March 8th is my birthday, and on the calendar it says International Women's Day. And so it is wonderful, I think, that we are now here in America starting to focus on International Women's Day. I like to share an experience, a story that I had that I think was very relevant to me. I was talking to my uncle, who was a dean of Yonsei University in Korea. And he was describing an issue. The issue was, how does a little country like South Korea, with no resources, how does it engage in the global economy? And so Korea collected all its leaders, corporate leaders, political leaders, academic leaders. They put them all together and they studied how to be competitive in a global economy. And a year later, my uncle told me they announced their finding, and the answer is women. And so what they found is that 50% of Korea's population was undervalued with a lack of opportunities. And that meant 50% of its innovation, its leadership. Now, everybody in Korea knew how hard women work and how they were engaged not only in the economy, but in the underground economy. And so much of it, because it was a very male-oriented society, was given no opportunities in the corporate and political world. So I thought that was a very interesting finding. I just didn't think they would actually ever do anything about it. But they did start to do something about it. And what they did, although not 100%, I think is a very interesting thing to observe. When you go shopping, you know, where do you put the kids? When you go shopping, how do you look at your kids while you're shopping? Who's making the decisions? And so in Korea, they started to build women shopping, something for the kids. It's really centered around the fact that women are the decision makers, and Korea ended up with a woman president before we have had a woman president here in the United States. Yeah. In Korea, they have, I think it is 6 months paid FMLA, right? Yeah. And I could tell you that while it is not necessarily true for women who unfortunately are of an older generation, because it happened later, for younger women, the pay, the opportunities is very, very good. My sister-in-law, she was an executive or was climbing the corporate ladder at LG Communications. And there was a point where she decided to have a child. And she wanted to raise that child, so she got FMLA. She didn't really plan to come back to work, but they paid her well past her FMLA. They continued to talk with her. They eventually lured her back to work because that's how much they valued her. And so that's just such an interesting thing as we look at where women are today. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19 and how disrupted it has not been good for women in the workforce. It has been challenging for women as homemakers. There are many challenges with school, the profession. Dealing with all these things falls on the shoulders of women. And so I think it is very important that we acknowledge the lift that women are carrying in our society today and what the future of our society is going to be, and to bring up front that we are going to have to lay this on the shoulder of our women and to really look again at the equity issues, equality issues, and appreciation issues in our society. So with all of that, we have tried to put together some fantastic people, starting with our MC, Monique Braxton, our keynote speakers, the twin doctors, our guest speakers here, the Honorary Consul of the Ukraine, and our best-selling author, Liz Moore, and our representative from the corporate side who joins us so often from GOYA to support our communities, not only with their brand, but also with their contributions. But you're going to hear from each one of them, which we're honored to have. And so I want to thank all of you because you are the leaders and the people that are making the changes on our streets and in our city. And really, we want to have a networking time. I cannot go through each and every one of you. We will be here like for a couple of hours. But when this is done, we're going to go next door and have something to eat, some refreshment, and a time for you to mingle and kind of network yourselves. So with that, let me just say Happy International Women's Day.
Oh my goodness, you put a lot of pressure on us. Everybody knows now that they've got to wait until the program is over before they eat, so that means our presentations are probably going to be a little bit shorter, Councilman. I want to introduce you to our next participants, Zima Duet. Imagine this. Imagine living in this household with a Cuban mother who is, no joke, educating, teaching, supporting, loving her Venezuelan daughter, Zima Duet.
Thank you so much. I just want to tell you that we are very excited to be here. Happy International Women's Day. We are also very excited to be representing the Hispanic community of the city of Philadelphia. We have prepared 3 short pieces. The first one is by a composer of Ukraine.
Did you all know this simple fact which has created this phenomenon? Women's Day is celebrated on March 8th. It is actually linked to the women's movement during the Russian Revolution of 1917. That is when Russian women demanded bread and peace during a wartime strike. So today, we're embracing our sisters from Ukraine and in Ukraine, their descendants living and working among us here in the Philadelphia region. So this morning when I was watching the news and I heard that 2 million people so far have fled Ukraine, what did I think about? That is 1/2 of the population in the Philadelphia region. Imagine women in our cities and towns walking away with children in arms, children by the hand, and luggage in tow. Imagine that. Imagine looking back and seeing your home, your property, become a battleground for bombing. Imagine sleeping in an underground tunnel in SEPTA. That is what the women are doing, along with arming themselves to fight alongside the men in their communities. That was the vision I had. And that's why today we're embracing and upholding the women of Ukraine. It's also why today we have invited the Honorary Consul of Ukraine, Iryna Mazur.
Monique, this is just wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you, and Liz, thank you too. Before I will speak, I would like to thank Councilman Oh for bringing all of us together here on this day. But specifically, I would like to ask Councilman Oh's team, because I know that this is actually was the female part of his team that put all this event together, who work actually many hours, and thank you for that very much. I will be frank with you that after speakers like Monique and Liz, I probably won't be able to be even on closer level to them, but I will speak from the bottom of my heart, because yesterday around 2 a.m. I actually was wrestling with the decision, should I write my speech for this morning or should I go to sleep? So I decided to go to sleep because I thought if I would have a little bit of sleep, I would be more or less sane, normal, and I will just speak the way how I think, the way how I feel. And I would like to share with you not my speech that I would prepare and formally deliver, but actually what I think about this day. My memories about March 8th, they just go to my childhood, when this day was actually, it meant to me a holiday for girls and women, when my father would bring us mimosa bouquets for me, for my mom. Usually guys would prepare breakfast at home, and it's just a very nice holiday when women just received a lot of attention. I was born actually in Ukrainian Soviet Republic, so I was born in 1976, so you would actually understand that we at that time lived under Soviet Union. So that holiday meant for me just a nice holiday that represented spring, beauty of women. And only when I became, I would say, a law student, I started to shift my focus on what is actually that holiday means. And then I started to think, well, what does it mean to be a woman? I enjoyed so many privileges being a woman, but actually that those privileges exist decades ago, 100 years ago. No, they did not. And women, they had to actually go through the history, through a very hard path. All women, all around the world, they had to really advocate for their rights. And it was not easy to advocate for your rights 100 years ago in any country. But when I moved to the United States, again, I was a lawyer practicing attorney in Ukraine, but my vision again shifted. I went to Temple Law School, so Liz, we went together to the same school. And again, my vision changed and my perspective, my views changed on what does it take to be a woman, and actually how much women in the United States, through what incredible amount of challenges they had to undergo to be where we are right now, but also a lot of many challenges ahead of us. Yesterday I was in Harrisburg, and I learned something interesting that I did not know. Apparently, just 100 years ago, women were not allowed to be on the floor of the Pennsylvania state capitol. Just imagine it, only 100 years ago. Not just even to vote, but to be on the floor at all. But all the beautiful frescoes around the Capitol building, they're just magnificent. And I asked, who was the painter of them? And I was told it was actually a woman. She was not allowed to work in the state building. So all those frescoes, they had to be commissioned in her studios, but they were painted by her and by her students, also females. So later they were transported to the state capitol, and they actually are there for us to remind that women are just incredible. The way how they feel, the way how they create, the way how they contribute to the society, and the way how much they can achieve in this life. So I will transition to Ukraine, to modern days, because the war in Ukraine did not start only 12 days ago. It actually started 8 years ago, where Ukraine, eastern part of Ukraine and Crimea were occupied by Russian Federation. That was incredible movement by Ukrainian women, girls and women, who took all the volunteer work on their shoulders, and they supported, and they were actually the first start for completely implementing changes to Ukrainian society, because we think about volunteer work here as something that we all got used to. It's normal in our society in the United States. It didn't exist 8 years ago in Ukraine. The network just did not exist. And were actually women who created this entire civil movement, entire change of the society that Ukraine constantly goes through. And it was women who began many volunteer organizations. Incredible changes were achieved in Ukrainian society because of that movement, because only several years ago, women in Ukraine were given official permission to serve in Ukrainian military forces, because when they defended Ukraine in 2013 and 14, they were officially listed as cookers or washers or secretaries, so they were not actually listed under the proper rank because it wasn't allowed under the old law. So the society changes, and the movement that was created by women volunteers, they made such a big impact on the Ukrainian life and the Ukrainian society that relevant changes were adopted by the Ukrainian legislators. Today, you know, there's a war in Ukraine, and it's hard for me to even explain to you how Ukrainian cities are bombed. They are leveled to the ground, leveled. I honestly, I don't even want to talk about this moment because it's hard for me. My parents are in Ukraine, my brother is serving and defending Ukraine. What I want to say that while Ukrainian men and women too serving in Ukrainian army, it's actually Ukrainian women volunteers who provide them with complete support, cooking for them, washing things for them, running Ukrainian community organizations, working on the logistics. Ukrainian superstars, models, they're peeling potatoes and actually bringing water to those ones who are currently under the buildings that collapsed completely. So they are taking on their shoulders incredible weight. And I just want to dedicate this day today. I want to dedicate all the flowers in the world to all those women who put this hard burden on their shoulders and who carry that burden with a dignity, with a compassion, and with love to their country. So I want to transition to something more positive, that official flower of today's day is mimosa. You know what is it, mimosa, right? It's a beautiful yellow flower. And it was chosen as a symbol of March 8th, by the Italian, I think it was Italian women who were advocated for their rights because of Mimosa's strength, resilience, and beauty. So I wish all of you happy International Women's Day, and I want to thank you for all that incredible support that I hear from the entire American community, but specifically from women, because each of you, when you talk to me, I just feel it in my heart. I truly feel it, and I appreciate each of your words, each of your gesture of support. Thank you so much, and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, Council. Thank you for sharing a heart-wrenching story and putting the situation in its perspective, the unprovoked attack of Ukraine. We have some more talent for you now. This is just amazing. 4 dancers, among them World Championship finalists, U.S. national champions, promising partnerships, galvanizing in a youth ballroom out in Feasterville, Pennsylvania. They've been together since 2016. They're known as the Brilliant Dance Sport Studio. They are the tops in their league, junior ballroom dancers in the country, under the leadership of the Fordney Foundation in North America. But here's the goal. They want to make sure they provide a welcoming environment where children thrive and reach incredible athletic achievements. Join us in welcoming Brilliant Dance Sport Studio.
Parlami del Sud America, quello che dicono laggiù, forse è fantasia e nulla più. Bongo la, bongo cia cia cia, è davvero così fantastica. Dimmelo con sincerità, nelle notiario che si fa. Per 1000 strade cantano, per 1000 piazze danzano, le ore più non contano, fra man poi cia, 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 oh oh oh, bongo la, bongo cia cia cia, parlami del Sud America, dimmelo con sincerità, nelle notiario che si fa. Bongo la, bongo cia cia cia, parlami del Sud America, quello che dicono laggiù, forse è fantasia e nulla più.
Напевно спиш, казка в кожного своя. Мені Лондон, тобі Париж, я вже старий блазень, а у тебе ще цілий світ, тож не бійся поразок. Я твій Чарлі, привіт. овацій то лети, але кожної миті пам'ятай, ліпше впасти, ніж просто піти. Завжди знайдуться кращі, кращі за тебе десь носить світ. Зізнаватися важче, я твій чарний привіт.
I won't name the show, but you all need to be the next winners of the $1 Million Silver Ball. Max, Zoe, Maxim, and Sophia. Wonderful. Now our guest speakers for the hour. In case you haven't heard their presentations on regional and national and international TV, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Delana Wardlaw and Dr. Elana McDonald. Dr. Wardlaw, black dress, so you won't get confused. Dr. McDonald, breast dress. They are known to us as the twin sister docs. Dr. Wardlaw is a board-certified family medicine physician from Philadelphia with more than 20 years of medical experience. She received her medical degree from Pennsylvania State University College of Medicine, completing her residency at Montgomery Family Medicine Residence Program, where she served as chief resident. Dr. Wardlaw's motivation for a career in medicine was influenced by the death of her maternal grandmother at the age of 53 to breast cancer. It was a pivotal moment in her life where she began to realize the many health disparities in the African American community. She also dedicated her career to addressing those disparities. Dr. Wardlaw believes that compassionate healthcare involves the following: listening to patients, open communication, building trust, and then empowering others to take charge of their own healthcare. She is dedicated to giving back to underserved communities and improving the overall quality of life for the underserved as well as everyone she encounters. She currently practices with Temple Health in Philadelphia, and she serves multiple generations of families. That means the great-grandmother, the grandmother, the parents, and the children. She's a member of the American Academy of Family Physicians, the Pennsylvania Academy of Family Physicians, and the Medical Society of Eastern Pennsylvania. In 2020, Dr. Wardlaw was named the Pennsylvania Academy of Family Physicians Family Physician of the Year. She's a dedicated wife and mother to twins. I'm sure that was surprising to you all. Dr. Elana McDonald is a board-certified pediatrician here in Philadelphia, the owner and chief medical officer of 3 Philadelphia-based practices: Memphis Street Pediatrics, Pazika Pediatrics, Castor Pediatrics. Dr. McDonald's path into medicine developed from her desire to make a difference in the lives of people, especially children. She graduated from Temple University Honors Program with a Bachelor of Arts in Medicine, Biology. She received her Doctorate of Medicine from Pennsylvania State College of Medicine and completed her pediatric residency at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. She's a member of the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Philadelphia County Medical Society, and the Medical Society of Eastern Pennsylvania. Dr. McDonald has provided quality, compassionate care in underserved areas for over 20 years. As a pediatrician, she no doubt loves educating, treating, and supporting her patients, as well as their families. She's also the proud wife and mother of 2 children, sons, not twins. Join me in welcoming my friends, Delana and Elana, twin sister docs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting the Twin Sister Docs to be the keynote speakers at this wonderful program. So oftentimes, Dr. Wardlaw and I are called to give speeches, so we do not read each other's speeches, but you may hear some similarities because our journeys are so similar. So I will begin first, and then Dr. Wardlaw will continue. Good afternoon, family, friends, Councilman Oh, and all elected officials present today. Thank you for inviting the Twin Sister Docs to the first International Women's Celebration here at City Hall. International Women's Day began to bring attention to the achievements of women, as well as shed light on the inequities that women continue to face. We are proud to share our journey with you today. Dr. Wardlaw and I are Philadelphia natives, and we are dedicated to serving underserved communities. We are standing here before you as physicians and healthcare advocates for several reasons. Our family members, our friends, our neighbors, our teachers and professors, our mentors, and our colleagues. You see, it was our parents who understood the importance of an education and stepped out on faith to bus us and our older siblings from the comfort of our neighborhood to a school 45 minutes away in a predominantly white neighborhood to ensure we received a quality education. You see, education can be the great equalizer to decreasing the gap of inequity when it is indeed equally accessible for all children, regardless of race, gender, religion, socioeconomic status, or neighborhood. Our teachers and professors were there, and they provided us with education and support that we needed to excel. The tight-knit community in the Strawberry Mansion section of North Philadelphia, where we were born and raised, played a significant role in nurturing the development of my sister and I. Our parents worked tirelessly to provide us with a stable home. There were daily and weekly chores to be done. If those dishes were not cleaned and the floor wasn't swept, my father would not hesitate to wake you up in the middle of the night and make sure that someone did those chores. Along with the responsibility of weekly chores, we learned the value of earning weekly allowances to reward us for our work done around the house. I still remember Sunday evening routines where my mother would turn on the oldies on WDAS, heat up the hot comb, and do our hair. One by one, me, Dr. Wardlaw, and my older sister. Not only was it our parents, it was our aunts, our uncles, cousins, grandparents who helped raise us. We would spend countless hours at our maternal grandmother's house, who lived 3 doors down, and our paternal grandparents, who lived 1 block over. When we came outside to play on our small street, it was also understood that the neighbors would be keeping a watchful eye on us. We were free to be kids because we knew there was always someone there to correct us when we were doing something wrong, and always there to help us when we needed it. Mommy would take us and all the other neighborhood kids on the block bike riding throughout the park. You see, in the neighborhood that had and continues to have social economic challenges, there was a village that supported each other, and this village was full of strong women. As professional women, we still have that village, but it now includes our husbands and our children who support us in everything that we do. As we celebrate International Women's Day, it is important to focus on the women in our family who impacted us. My grandmother was our first exposure to the medical field. She was a labor and delivery nurse at Pennsylvania Hospital. She worked the graveyard shift while also raising 8 children. My mother, Marilyn Polite, was a phlebotomist at Kensington Hospital. These strong women taught us how to advocate for ourselves in a world where other people and systems were not always rooting for us. My sister-in-law, also a pediatrician, provided advice on how to navigate medical school and residency. Exposure and mentorship is key to any young person aspiring towards a certain career path. After our sophomore year at Temple University, Dr. Wardlaw and I both participated in a summer internship sponsored by the Medical Society of Eastern Pennsylvania. For 8 weeks, we were paired with African-American physicians in a variety of specialties. I worked with a pediatrician, an internist, a dermatologist, orthopedic surgeon, a vascular surgeon, an ophthalmologist, to name a few. That internship was a turning point for me, as it provided me with the opportunity to work with African-American physicians taking care of African-American patients, as well as other patients in our beloved city of Philadelphia. Working with these physicians, especially women physicians, live and in living color, solidified the fact that I too could be a physician. I still keep in contact with some of those physicians that I met in that program today. Dr. Wilfreda Ball, Dr. Pamela Huffman, they became my mentors. As these women physicians, as well as some men physicians, Not only were saving lives, they understood the importance of mentoring to increase the number of African American women physicians. Our mentors were and continue to be important as we run into roadblocks. Talking to someone who is successful in your career, in the career that you are aspiring towards, is critical. They understand exactly what you're experiencing and can provide advice on how to weather storms that will certainly arise. African American women physicians are only 2% of the physician population. These numbers must increase as we look to diversify medicine to provide care for diverse communities and continue to improve the outcomes of these communities. Exposure to the field of medicine and the professions that you have something, and the professionals that you have something in common with early on is key to increasing the number of women entering the field of medicine. Twin Sister Docs works to increase exposure to the medical fields as we go to elementary, middle, high schools, and colleges to share our journey. If you can see it, you can absolutely believe it. It is important for young girls, especially black and brown girls, as well as boys, to see that we come from the same neighborhoods that they live in. We did it, and they can certainly do it as well. Throughout my journey to medical school, residency, and as a practicing physician, I have dealt with many microaggressions. Oftentimes, someone questioned if I was qualified to be in medical school. Many times, patients or other medical staff have attempted to call me by my first name instead of doctor. For years, I did not feel comfortable wearing my natural hair as it was viewed as unprofessional. As we move towards change, we must embrace everyone's culture. Our little girls must feel comfortable wearing their hair in their natural state, wearing the clothing that represent their ethnicity. When we allow individuals to express themselves, they become more confident. Twin Sister Docs was created to change the narrative of the healthcare underserved communities, especially African American and Latinx communities. African Americans have the highest risk of complications and rates of death for heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, HIV, to name a few. These incidence rates are high due to hundreds of years of slavery, systemic racism, implicit bias, lack of access to quality health care, and excellent schools. Twin Sister Docs focus to increase the awareness of healthcare disparities. We want to increase our reach from not only the patients in our office, but on a more local, regional, and national level. Our mission is based on the 3 T's: trust, translate, and transform. We provide accurate information that translates into patients taking action for their health care, ultimately leading to transformational outcomes. We provide general information to allow individuals to have a conversation with their physician about their health. Studies have shown that African American men, as well as women, are more likely to be compliant if they have an African American physician. We understand that people are more likely to listen to someone who looks like them and understand not only their medical, but their social issues. If we do not understand the social issues of our patients and what their families are experiencing, then it becomes very difficult to treat their medical problems. And people are more likely to be transparent when you see them as a person and not just as a patient. And in order to improve the outcome of the health of African Americans and Latinos, there has to be a systemic change on all levels across the healthcare system, from the hospital administrators to the doctors and the nurses, the medical students, security, dietary, housekeeping. Diversity training must begin in medical, nursing, and business schools. It must be required, not an option. Healthcare professionals must be able to recognize their own biases, and we must also be able to communicate and treat individuals of a different background. Women have made great strides in the last century. Most notably, our Vice President Kamala Harris, the first African American and woman Vice President, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was recently nominated to be the next and first African American Supreme Court Justice, and of course, Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett, one of the lead scientists in the development of the Moderna COVID vaccine. However, the playing field on various levels are still very much unequal, most notably in the area of compensation. White women make 79 cents for every dollar that a white man makes. African American women make 64 cents for every dollar that a white man makes, and Latino women make 57 cents for every dollar that their white male counterparts make. It takes a black woman 19 months to make what a white male makes in 12 months for the same position. It's time to end this inequity. Qualified women deserve to be offered the positions as CEO, medical director, president, and be compensated at the same rate as their male counterparts. Women must also be offered the professional developmental programs to allow them to excel in their careers. As we work to increase the number of women in all careers, we must encourage our young girls to participate in math and science at an early age, expose our young girls to educational camps and programs, voluntary and paid, in technology, medicine, research, business, engineering, politics, and architecture. Expose them to all of the professions at an early stage in life. And we must also implement policies in both the public and private sector to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. As I conclude, I would be remiss if we didn't talk briefly about COVID vaccinations. Twin Sister Docs has been working tirelessly for the last 2 years, providing accurate, culturally competent information about the COVID-19 virus and the vaccine. COVID-19 has had a disproportionate impact on African Americans and Latinos. Vaccines are safe and effective at preventing severe illness and death. We encourage everyone to get their COVID vaccine. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my husband, Roman, our wonderful sons, my parents, our Twin Sister Docs team, our other family members and friends, and of course, Dr. Wardlaw here. And thank you, Councilman Oh, and your wonderful team for inviting Twin Sister Docs to participate in such a wonderful event. And thank you to all of the other guest speakers here. Well, I think Dr. McDonald said it all, but I'm going to read my speech anyway. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Councilman Oh. Thank you, Monique Braxton. Thank you, Iryna. Oh, she's not here. Okay. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for all the phenomenal women and all the other people in the room today who has gathered with us. I would particularly like to thank my husband, who is sitting right over here, and my children, Khalif and Amira, who didn't want me to call out their name, but they are here as well, and my parents, and my other family and friends. I am a proud family medicine physician, and I am one half of the Twin Sister Docs. We are native Philadelphians hailing from Strawberry Mansion. We are products of the Philadelphia public school system, proud graduates of Central High School. I mention our schooling because without a great education, we would not be standing here today. Because of our parents, we were granted an opportunity that is not available to everyone. Our parents recognized very early on that the quality of your education is dependent upon your zip code. And they were staunch advocates for us and our education. This was one of my earliest introductions to advocacy for not only myself, but also for others, which has allowed me to become a strong healthcare advocate for my patients and the broader community. My why, as Monique mentioned in the introduction, my interest in medicine began when when I learned my maternal grandmother died of breast cancer at the age of 53. Breast cancer, well, I'm not that much younger than 53. And breast cancer, as we all know, is a disease that if it's diagnosed at an early stage, there are high chances of survival. However, due to lack of access to quality health care and mistrust in the medical establishment, my grandmother unfortunately likely missed out on another 30 years of her life. As my journey through medicine began, it became quite apparent that we were once again a minority. Looking around the room, you notice that most people don't look like you, and you realize that many question your academics, your achievements, and wonder if you're there to fill a quota. You learn to develop a thick skin because in medicine, a hierarchy exists, just as it does in many other professions. But you also learn that there are some things that are just not acceptable. Racism, sexism, sexual harassment, and ethnic intimidation, to name a few. We must ensure policies and procedures are in place to deter such behavior and to allow for appropriate action if it does occur. The journey was challenging, and it remains a challenge, academically, emotionally, and physically, because as physicians, we're always continual learners. The learning never stops. And we must rely on our support systems. Fortunately, I've always had a built-in support system and Dr. McDonald, also my family, my friends, my husband. However, we are the only physicians in our family, so we had to identify mentors to help us succeed in our journey. This is why mentorship is an integral part of the Twin Sister Docs mission. We participate in various community and school events, including career days, panel discussions, college interest groups, as well as in vaccination clinics as well, giving the students the opportunity to interact with us, physicians that look like them and hail from the same communities that they come from. We know representation matters. As African Americans, we represent 2% of the physician population. As African American women, we represent 2% of the physician population here in the United States, with African Americans overall, male and female, representing approximately 5% of the physicians in the United States. Twin Sister Docs firmly believe that to increase those diversity numbers in medicine, we must introduce medicine and STEM careers at early stages. As healthcare advocates, we address inequities that arise when there is a difference in healthcare based on resources that are available that ultimately can have a negative impact on one's health. African Americans are directly affected by these inequities and carry the burden of many diseases, high rates of breast and colon cancer mortality, heart disease, obesity, maternal morbidity and mortality. African American women, we are 3 times as likely to suffer complications from maternal morbidity and mortality than our Caucasian counterparts. Infant mortality, to name a few. Without access to care, we miss the ability to provide preventive care and to detect chronic illnesses early. We must work with our government agencies to ensure such access. In addition to access to quality care, we must ensure that physicians are culturally competent and be able to deliver quality care to a diverse group of patients. We do know that African Americans, as well as other ethnic groups, oftentimes feel more comfortable with physicians that can identify with them and their circumstances. Unfortunately, diversity in medicine is lacking, so we must ensure that every physician is able to understand the communities that they serve and be able to address the issues that the challenges that they are facing. Today, as we stand here, we must also talk about equal pay. As women physicians, we do not get the compensation that our male counterparts get. March 24th is Women's Equal Pay Day, which equals how far in the next year women must work to earn the same pay that men earned in the previous year. And that date is even further for African American women. That date is August the 3rd, that it takes for us to earn that same pay. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, women on average earn about 79 cents for every dollar that men earn, and it's even lower for African American women. That gap is wider for women of color, Latina, Native American, and Asian American Pacific Islander women. It occurs across nearly all occupations. Many factors add to this problem, including gender and racial discrimination, decreased value of women's work, and lack of support for women who have to provide family care. The pandemic has had a drastic effect on this issue, as many women were forced to leave their jobs to provide such family care. We must be diligent to ensure transparency of wages being offered to men and women, and provide proper paid leave for child and elder care, which tends to affect women more. And congratulations to the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team, who have been granted the ability to be able to earn equal pay as their male counterparts for all future tournaments. And I'd like to end with a story from my past. During a visit to the Constitution Center when my daughter was 6 years old, she sat at the presidential desk and said, "When I become president, I'm going to make equal pay for men and women." Well, my baby is 13 today. There she is. And we are still preparing to fight the fight. So as I close, I would like to thank all the influential women in my life, my mother, my daughter, my sisters, my mother-in-law, my aunts, my sister friends, my dear Ocean Boomy Fernandez, who is here, who is a dear friend, our Twin Sister Docs team, who is here and helps us to organize and get our vaccination clinics done in an effective manner, And thank you to my father, who is always there to support us, always provide a strong male factor in our lives. And with that, thank you, and Happy Women Internationals Day.
I want to thank the Twin Sister Docs for taking a break in their day to join us in Breaking the Bias, hashtag Break the Bias. It was just lovely hearing from them. I don't know how many of you know them, but I've known them as, I feel blessed to call them my friends, because they point out the issues, then they give you tools to handle them. So let me give you their 3 mottos again, just if anyone wants to write it down, because it resonated in my soul. Trust, translate, and transform. Twin Sister Docs. If you've never seen them in person, now you see them. They're breaking records, they're making history, and not a one of the family members stood. So now it is my intention to have the Wardlaw and the McDonald family please stand. 2 families, please stand. Thank you. I know the Wardlaw babies are like giving me mean faces right now, but that's okay. I love you anyway. Our special guest speaker for the hour, one of our sponsors representing GOYA this afternoon, is Mireya Lumbreras from GOYA.
Thank you for the introduction, Monique. And thank you to Councilman David Oh and his team for this opportunity. It is an honor for me to be here representing GOYA in celebration of International Women's Day. As you all know, we at GOYA have been part of the Philly community since the very first Latinos migrated to this great city. Through our GOYA Gives program, we try our best to support many organizations, programs, and charitable endeavors throughout the city to show our appreciation to everyone who supported us from the beginning. Women's History Month is an opportunity to reflect on the accomplishment of all women. And it is also an opportunity for us to celebrate the Latina women, to celebrate and recognize their contributions to this country, their success, and their role in the United States. There are many Latinas also in this room, and I would like to recognize them. It is not just in March that we celebrate women. At GOYA, we celebrate women every day. We want to recognize all the exceptional Hispanic women and all of the women that lead our societies and that work in our communities. We want to celebrate our abuelas, our tías, our hermanas, our daughters, the women of the future as well. We thank you for all that you do, especially in the community, always moving forward and helping the rest, being the pillars of our families. It is important to promote the inclusion of all women in all different industries and career paths, as we recognize and truly encourage and support the advancement of women. Events like this one are a great way to bring together smart, resourceful, and successful women that can learn from each other and also support each other. These events create a space to lift up and motivate other women into following their dreams and into embracing change. Because we are all in constant change as we progress in our lives. So what your passion is today might lead you to a different passion tomorrow. So ask yourself, where do you want to be in the future? Where do you see yourself? Where can or do you want to make an impact, make a difference? In my own personal experience, I studied journalism and communications in Universidad Carlos III de Madrid because I've always been passionate about storytelling and the media. However, it was only when I started my first internship at Edelman, one of the world's largest PR agencies, that I realized and started to become interested in the public relations world, in corporate communications. I realized how much I enjoyed the creative process, collaborating with different organizations, especially those that focus on socially responsible initiatives. I really enjoyed interacting with reporters, producers, creating campaigns, and engaging with different types of people. So after realizing how much I enjoyed this field of public relations, I decided this was going to be the career path I wanted to follow and specialize in. But it hasn't really been always a straight line. I took many opportunities in communications, but also in marketing, in sales, in different countries all over the world, and also in different companies in size and scope, from startups to media companies, even home decor companies. And 2 years ago, I applied to a position at GOYA Foods in the PR department, and here I am talking to all of you and doing what I love, which is working with the community, connecting the corporate world to the community, standing by our people, and trying to make a difference. And making a difference is exactly what GOYA has been doing for many years through our GOYA Gives program. We support over 300 charitable endeavors, scholarships, events, and initiatives that promote culture and overall community wellness. GOYA has also taken the lead in many disaster relief operations through donations of food and help in moments of crisis. In fact, right now, GOYA Foods is donating hundreds of thousands of pounds of food to the people in Ukraine. Thank you. We recently launched a new program, which is called GOYA Cares. GOYA Cares is very important to us because it's a global initiative to combat child and human trafficking, both here in the United States and globally. We realize this is a big issue that people tend to think it only happens far away in other countries, but unfortunately it also happens here. So GOYA has decided to step up and do something about it. Through education and awareness, we hope to help put an end to this terrible issue, to child trafficking here in the United States and globally. We work with organizations that help the victims in their rescue, in their rehabilitation, and in their re-education. In their education, because we want to give another opportunity to these women, giving them the opportunity to take back their future and to be the change makers for tomorrow. In celebration of Women's History Month, we have launched a campaign to pay tribute to women who have dedicated their lives and careers to combating human and child trafficking. We honor these women for their dedication, compassion, and determination, and we truly feel that together we can create change. So my advice to every woman in this room is learn about yourself and don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to become the woman of your dreams. Every experience counts. Your career path might not be easy or how you imagined it. Probably your first job right out of college wasn't your dream job. But know that when you combine your passion with hard work and dedication, your dreams can come true and possibly take you anywhere. There is no set time for anyone, but when your time comes, embrace all that life has to offer you. Thank you so much, and happy International Women's Day to everyone. And if it's GOYA, it has to be good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for solidifying our theme for today, embracing change in our lives. Okay, let's see now. Max and Zoe and Maxim and Sophia, the winners of the Silver Ball, I won't say the name of the show, are coming back with a magnificent performance for us.
Настане день, закінчиться війна, там загубив себе, побачив аж до дна. Складай зброю вниз, невже так і вона так хоче теплих слів? Настане день, закінчиться війна, там загубив себе, побачив аж до дна.
Як тобі сказати, без тебе не можу спати, і місяць по кімнаті розкинув сатин, очі тобі зав'яжу і серце
Wow. Wow. I'd like to know if Iryna or Vitalia are here, the creators of the dance studio. She's in the back if you all don't see her. What incredible work. Thank you so much, Max, Zoe, Maxim, Sophia. Brilliant dance sports studio from Feasterville. So we've had people from the city, from the suburbs. You all really turned the mayor's reception room into a ballroom. Just magnificent work. And I just have one question. The twin sister docs and I want to know, can we just come out and take one class? Is that allowed? Is that allowed for us just to take one class, maybe on a weekend day? Just to learn how to twirl and make the rug work as your ballroom. Councilman Oh, thank you so much for your office inviting me to participate. Happy International Women's Day. Applaud yourselves. This has been incredible. Thank you so much for hosting it and celebrating us and teaching us what it means to really break the bias. Thank you so much. And I promise you, food is coming up. Food is coming up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Monique Braxton and everybody. We're going to do something. We're going to have our speakers come up. We have some citations for you. We'll take a quick picture, and then we're going to go, I believe, into the other room. Anna's nodding. We're going to go out the door to the left. I'm sorry, to the right, the other left. And we will have a reception over there where we want you to introduce yourselves to each other. We have some fantastic leaders and community leaders and others here, business leaders. So we'll do that, and we'll see you over there. Thank you very much. All right.